Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are doing something a little different.
A little closer to home, you could say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Usually we look at what's happening out there, in the markets and geopolitics, all very abstract. Today we are looking right at your screen.
Right at the blinking cursor.
We're looking at the tools you probably have open on your desktop right this second, and we are going to ask a very uncomfortable question.
The question is, who are you actually trusting?
Yes.
It's a question we almost never ask, right? We tend to think of trust in software as this binary thing. It's either good or bad. I installed it, so it's good. Or it's some virus and it's bad.
Right, it's black and white.
But the reality we're unpacking today is, well, it's much more fluid. It's so much messier.
It is. And to set the stage properly, I want to pitch a very specific scenario to you. Let's say it's a typical Tuesday morning.
Okay.
You sit down with your coffee, you open Outlook to check your email standard corporate routine for millions of us.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if you're a developer or, a power user, you pop open a terminal window to update some tools, run a quick brew update.
Standard developer muscle memory.
And because it's the modern era, you ask your AI assistant, maybe an agent you've set up, to summarize a YouTube video for you so you don't have to watch the whole thing.
Sounds like a completely standard, incredibly productive workflow for a lot of people.
Right. Nothing weird about that.
Yeah.
And in this scenario, you haven't clicked a single suspicious link in a spam email. You haven't visited a sketchy gambling site. You haven't downloaded a free cracked iPhone app.
You've done everything right, according to the old rules.
Exactly. Yet, in this exact scenario, based on the research we're looking at today, you have just been compromised in 3 completely different catastrophic ways.
It's not a hypothetical.
No. Your passwords are gone, your banking info is scraped, and there's a backdoor on your machine giving a hacker full interactive control.
And the scary part, the part that I think really keeps security researchers up at night, is that you didn't do anything wrong in that traditional sense. You just used the tools. You used them exactly the way they were designed to be used.
This is the theme of today's deep dive. We are calling it hidden trust.
A good name for it.
Because we aren't just trusting the software we click install on, we are trusting the entire pipeline that delivers it. We are trusting the updates, the dependencies, the plugins, the skills.
Right. We are talking about a concept.
Mm-hmm.
It has a technical term we should probably get comfortable with today. It's called remote dynamic dependencies.
Okay, break that down.
It basically means that a lot of the code that runs on your machine isn't actually on your machine until the very moment you use it.
It's not stored locally.
Not at all. It's being pulled live from the internet, from some server somewhere. And if that pipeline, that supply chain gets hijacked, well, you know the old saying, the call is coming from inside the house.
So today, we have 4, and I mean this, 4 absolute nightmares to unpack from our source material. First, we have agree to steal. It sounds like a bad legal drama, but it's actually about a zombie Outlook add-in that woke up hungry for
A
credentials.
zombie in your inbox. Then we have brew hijack.
This is where a coffee break, or rather using homebrew, turns into a malware delivery service right on your Mac.
Then there's PackageGate, which I'd call a massive scandal involving the world's biggest JavaScript package manager. It's basically the engine room of the entire modern web.
And finally, we get to the future, Claw Havoc. It sounds like a 90s action figure.
It does.
But it's actually about weaponized skills for AI bots.
It is quite a lineup. But I think the mission here isn't just to scare everyone into unplugging their computers.
Right, it's to understand.
It's to understand the architectural flaw that connects all of these stories. We really need to get our heads around why the old model of set it and forget it is completely dead.
Okay, so let's start with the one that probably hits closest to home for the corporate crowd. The zombie in the sidebar. This is the agree to steal story.
This one is, I think, fascinating because it so perfectly exploits the way we perceive official software. It leverages that blue shield of trust we give to anything that looks like it belongs to Microsoft.
Okay, so take us back. The origin story. It's 2022, and there's a tool called Agreedo. What was it?
Agreedo was a perfectly legitimate project. It was a meeting scheduling tool, kind of like Calendly. It was built by a real developer, had a real business model.
It wasn't some shady fly-by-night thing.
Not at all. It had a Chrome extension with good reviews, an active GitHub repository, even Stripe integration for billing. Someone was really trying to build a business here.
And critically for our story, they had an Outlook add-in.
Yes, they published an add-in to the official Microsoft Office store in December of 2022. Microsoft reviewed it, signed off on it, and it was listed for anyone to use.
And people did use it.
Thousands of people installed it to help schedule their meetings. It did what it said on the tin.
Okay, so far, so good. We have a legitimate business, a legitimate app. But then, as happens with so many startups, well, they fizzled out.
Exactly. The developer seems to have abandoned the project. They stopped updating the Chrome extension around May 2023. And crucially, and this is the absolute pivot point of the entire story, they let their domain name, agrito.app, expire.
So they just stopped paying the registration fee?
Just let it go. And on top of that, they deleted their deployment on a platform called Vercel.
For those who don't know, what is Vercel? Just briefly.
Vercel is a very, very popular cloud hosting platform. It's where developers put their websites and web apps. It's incredibly easy to use. And when you host something there, you often get a specific web address, like my-project.vercel.app.
So the project is dead, the developer has walked away, the lights are off. But here's the twist, and this is the aha moment of this whole story. The Outlook add-in listing didn't disappear.
No, it remained right there in the Microsoft Store, live. And this is where we have to take a second and explain how Office add-ins actually work, because it's not what most people think.
Right. I think most people imagine that when they install an add-in in Outlook, they're downloading a little program, a mini.exe file or something that now lives inside Outlook.
You're saying that's not the case?
Not at all. Not even close. You are installing something called a manifest.
A manifest?
Yeah, it's just a tiny XML file, a text file. And you can think of it like a menu at a restaurant.
The menu isn't the food.
Right.
The menu just tells you what's available and, more importantly, where the kitchen is. It gives the address.
So the manifest is just a set of instructions, a signpost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that tiny file basically tells Outlook one simple thing. Hey, when the user clicks this button in the sidebar, I want you to open a little window. It's called an iframe, and I want you to load this specific URL.
Wait a minute. So the app that's running in my Alex sidebar,
Yeah.
that calculator or that scheduler or that signature tool, it's just a web page.
Precisely. It is a web page loaded inside an Outlook frame. It is a tiny browser window disguised as an integrated tool.
That changes how I think about those things completely.
It should. So in the case of Agrito, the manifest pointed to that Vercel subdomain, outlook-1.vercel.app.
I think I see where this is going. The developer deleted their Vercel deployment. They walked away. So that address, that outlook-1.vercel.app, it became what?
It was orphaned. It was available. It's like moving out of an apartment, not telling the landlord, and leaving the front door unlocked. Anyone could just walk in and say, I live here now.
And that's what happened.
An attacker comes along, sees this piece of abandonware, and simply registers that exact same subdomain on their own Vercel account. Vercel doesn't know it used to belong to someone else. It just sees an available name.
So you're telling me Microsoft is basically framing a phishing site inside their own trusted application?
That is exactly what happened. The attacker claimed the URL. So now, when all those existing users, people who installed this thing years ago and forgot about it, or even new users who somehow find it in the store, when they click that Agrito button in Outlook,
It doesn't load the old scheduler.
it loads the attacker's content.
Yeah.
A malicious web page.
That is just wild because, we spend all our time telling people, check the URL, check the little lock icon in the address bar. But here, you're inside Outlook. You are in the corporate sanctuary.
Yeah.
You see the Microsoft Chrome, the official branding all around the window. Your brain just accepts it.
And that's the core of the exploit. That's why it works so well. The attacker didn't need to hack Microsoft's servers. They didn't need to compromise the original developer's computer. They just squatted on a URL that Microsoft had already given its stamp of approval to. The trust was inherited from 2022.
It's like a ghost. The trust in the original app just lingers and they possessed its corpse.
A perfect analogy.
So let's talk about the attack itself. What did the victim actually see when this zombie add-in finally woke up and bit them?
They saw a very generic, very believable Microsoft sign-in page right there inside that sidebar. It looked exactly like a standard, your session has expired, please log in again, prompt.
Which, to be fair, happens all the time in Office 365. I feel like I have to log back in 3 times a day for no reason.
Constantly. It's the perfect camouflage. It's slightly annoying, but it's completely normal user behavior. It doesn't raise any red flags.
So the user sighing types in their email and their password.
They do. And here is the technical simplicity that's just, it's almost elegantly evil. The attacker didn't set up some complex command and control server network. They didn't build a massive back-end database to store credentials.
They didn't need to.
No, they just used a simple JavaScript function to grab the username and password from the form fields and send them to a Telegram bot API.
A Telegram bot? You mean like the messaging app?
Yes. Exactly. Why build your own server when you can use Telegram's globally distributed encrypted infrastructure for free?
And it's probably not blocked by corporate firewalls.
That's the key. It's almost never blocked. Most corporate firewalls don't block traffic to api.telegram.org because, marketing teams might use it for channels or developers use it for legitimate notifications. It just blends in with normal traffic.
So the stolen data was just instantly messaged to the attacker's private Telegram account. Ping, here is John's password.
Exactly. And then the final crucial step to keep the user from getting suspicious. After the credentials were sent, the script would immediately redirect the sidebar to the real Microsoft login page.
Ah, so the user types their password, it flashes for a second, then they see the login page again. They just think.
Oh, just a glitch. Maybe I typed it wrong. So they log in again for real this time, and it works. And they move on with their day, completely unaware that their credentials are now sitting in a Telegram chat log.
That is so insidious. The user self-corrects the problem and forgets about it.
And the impact was significant. The researchers from COI, who are the source for this part of our deep dive, they actually managed to compromise the attacker's infrastructure.
How?
Ironically, the attacker had really poor security on their own phishing kit, left it wide open.
It's always the way, isn't it? The cobbler's children have no shoes, so what do they find in there?
They found the logs, and they found over 4,000 victims. And it wasn't just email passwords, which is bad enough.
What else?
They found full credit card numbers, CVVs, expiration dates, and specifically they found banking security questions and answers for Interac e-transfers.
Oof. Okay, that's not just, I can read your email. That is money directly out of your bank account. That's, I can now impersonate you to your bank.
That's, I have emptied your savings account. And we have to remember, this add-in had the read-write item permission. That was granted way back in 2022 when it was a harmless scheduler.
And what does that permission allow?
It allows the add-in to read and modify your emails. So the attacker could have, in theory, read sensitive corporate data, looked for financial documents, or even sent emails as the victim to spread the infection to their contacts.
So the big takeaway here is just, it's structurally terrifying. Microsoft reviews the manifest file one time.
Correct, when it's first submitted.
But the content at the URL that the manifest points to can change every single day, every minute.
The trust is static, right? The content is mutable. That is the absolute definition of this hidden trust crisis we're talking about. We trusted a decision Microsoft made in 2022, but the reality on the ground in 2026 is completely different.
And Microsoft isn't waking up every morning and rechecking the live content of every single add-in in their store.
Of course not. It would be physically impossible. The scale is too big. So they trust the URL, and that trust is weaponized when the URL changes hands.
Wow. Okay, let's unpack that. That's the corporate user, maybe not super technical, living in their Outlook bubble. Now I want to pivot to the developers, the people who are supposed to know better.
The ones who look at the Outlook users and say, yeah, I would never fall for that.
Exactly. Let's talk about Brew Hijack.
Ah, yes. Homebrew. If you are a developer or even a power user on a Mac, you use Homebrew. There's almost no escaping it. It's the unofficial Mac App Store for coders.
You type brew install something and you get the tool you need. It's magic.
It is magic, and the assumption, the hidden trust here, is that when I type brew install, I am getting a secure, verified file. I assume two things are happening. First, that it's coming over HTTPS encrypted.
Right, so no one can spy on it or tamper with it in transit.
And second, I assume there's a checksum. Now, can you briefly explain what a checksum is for the non-coders listening?
Sure. Think of a checksum as a unique digital fingerprint for a file. When a developer releases their software, they calculate a complex math problem based on the exact contents of that file.
Every single bit and byte.
Exactly. And that creates a long, unique string of characters, the checksum, if even one tiny bit of that file changes. If someone adds a virus or even just deletes a comma in a text file, the checksum changes completely.
So Homebrew is supposed to download the file, calculate the fingerprint itself, and then check if it matches the fingerprint it was expecting. If they match, it's safe. If they don't, it aborts.
Okay, so we have two layers of defense here, HTTPS, which is encryption, and checksums, which is verification.
That is the assumption. That is the trust we place in the system. But the researchers who dug into this found a gaping hole in that logic.
What did they find?
They found 20 casks. Now, casks are what Homebrew calls the formulas for GUI applications, like web browsers or text editors.
The ones with actual icons, not just terminal tools.
Right. They found 20 of these in the core official Homebrew repository that combine two absolutely deadly flaws. First, they downloaded their software over unencrypted HTTP.
Wait, in 2026, people are still using HTTP for software delivery. I thought we got rid of that.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But it happens. Legacy servers, old mirror sites, simple misconfigurations. But yes, unencrypted. And that means if I'm on the same Wi-Fi network as you say, at a coffee shop, an airport, even a corporate guest network, I can see exactly what you are downloading.
Yeah.
And I can intercept it.
Okay, that's bad. What was the second flaw?
The second flaw was that these casts had a specific flag enabled in their formula, a flag called SHA-256.nocheck.
No check. That sounds, well, it sounds exactly like what it is.
It is. It's an instruction that literally tells Homebrew, don't bother verifying the fingerprint of this file. Whatever you download from that URL, just assume it's correct and install it.
Why on earth does that exist? Why would Homebrew ever allow that as an option? Is it just pure laziness on the part of the package maintainers?
It's more nuanced than that. It's not just laziness, though that can be a factor.
Yeah.
Think about applications like Google Chrome or Spotify. They update constantly,
All the time.
sometimes multiple times a week, with small security patches. The download URL for these apps is often a generic latest link, like download Chrome latest. The file at that URL changes every few days.
I see. So if Homebrew required a static checksum for every single tiny update,
The maintainers would have to manually go in, download the new version, calculate the new checksum, and update the Homebrew formula every single time Chrome pushes a minor fix. It would be a full-time job for dozens of packages.
and it would break constantly for users. You'd type brew install Chrome, and it would fail 9 times out of 10 because the checksums don't match the brand new version.
Right. So nocheck exists as a convenience feature. It allows for these evergreen installers that always pull the latest version, and there are over 2,800 casks that use it for this reason.
Okay, so it has a purpose, but
But it's usually fine if you use HTTPS.
yeah.
Because even if the file changes, HTTPS guarantees that the server you're talking to is the real Google server, not an imposter. The encryption protects you.
And HTTP is fine, or at least less dangerous if you use checksums, because even if someone intercepts the download, they can't forge the fingerprint.
Exactly. They're designed to be redundant controls. You're supposed to have at least one, but using neither, that is a complete security failure. It's a wide open door.
It means I can sit in a coffee shop, watch for your brew install command, intercept it, and swap the file. Homebrew doesn't check the encryption because there is none, and it doesn't check the fingerprint because you told it not to.
I asked for a calculator app, and you hand me a virus, and my computer says, thanks. This looks good to me.
Precisely. And the researchers didn't just theorize about this. They actually built a proof of concept to show how devastatingly easy it was. They called it, quite bluntly, the "You Have Been Hacked" app.
Subtle. I like it.
So what did they do?
They targeted a package that had this vulnerability, a text editor called Tau. They set up a classic man-in-the-middle attack on a network. They waited for a target to run brew install Tau.
They intercepted the request because it was plain HTTP.
Yep. And they swapped the real installer for their own malicious .dmg file, the You Have Been Hacked app.
And what did Homebrew do? Did it throw up a warning? Anything?
Homebrew didn't blink. It downloaded the malware, verified nothing, moved the malicious app directly into the applications folder, and reported installation successful. The user gets no warning, no red text, no, "Are you sure you want to run this?" It's seamless.
That is deeply terrifying because we trust the package manager to be the gatekeeper. It's supposed to be the bouncer at the door, and in this case, it just held the door open for the bad guy.
And to be fair, Homebrew's team responded very responsibly and quickly when this was disclosed. They immediately went through and updated those 20 vulnerable casks to use HTTPS,
Right.
or they disabled the ones that couldn't be secured.
That's good.
It is. But it highlights the underlying tension, that constant battle between convenience and verification. The desire for everything to be automatic and always up to date often leads to security corners being cut.
It's the same theme again. We trust the platform, in this case, Homebrew, so we stop checking the details of the things on the platform. We just assume Homebrew has done all the checking for us.
Precisely. And in this case, the platform had a policy, the existence of the no-check flag, that explicitly prioritized that ease of use over absolute security for that specific subset of applications, a crack in the foundation.
All right, let's go even deeper down the rabbit hole. We've done the corporate office suite, we've done the developer's Mac. Now we're going into the heavy machinery of the web itself. Let's talk about JavaScript. Let's talk about NPM. Let's talk about PackageGate.
To really understand this one, we need a tiny bit of recent history. Do you remember the Shai-Hulud worm?
The giant sandworm from Dune. Oh, wait, you mean the malware?
Yeah.
Yes, from November 2025. It was all over the tech news. A huge mess.
A huge mess is an understatement. It compromised over 700 packages in the NPM ecosystem. It was nasty. And in the aftermath of that, the entire industry basically came together and agreed on a playbook, the How to Stay Safe playbook for JavaScript developers.
And that playbook had two main rules, right? Disable scripts and commit your log files.
Exactly. The first rule is using the ignore scripts flag. You pass this to your package manager, and it says, do not run any automatic code when I install this package.
Which is a feature that still boggles my mind. By default, a package can just run code during its own installation.
It's insane if you really stop and think about it. It's like buying a piece of furniture from IKEA, and as you're assembling it, it suddenly tries to install a new lock in your front door. So ignore scripts is supposed to stop that.
Okay, that's rule one. What's rule two?
Commit your lock file. A lock file is a giant file that says, for this project, only install exactly these specific versions of these specific dependencies with these specific checksums. It freezes your project's dependencies in time so you don't get any unexpected updates.
So the community had its safety blanket, ignore scripts and lock files?
They did. So the same researchers at COI decided to be the ultimate stress testers. They asked a simple question. Does this playbook actually work?
And the answer was a resounding no.
A terrifyingly loud no. They found 6 distinct zero-day vulnerabilities across all the major package managers, NPM, PNPM, Bun, VLLT, that completely bypass these specific protections.
Okay, let's walk through these. Let's start with the ignore scripts bypass. How in the world do you run a script if I have explicitly told my computer ignore scripts? That seems like a direct contradiction.
It does. Well, let's look at NPM, the biggest one.
Yeah.
NPM allows you to have dependencies that aren't just from the NPM registry. They can come from a Git repository.
Right, from GitHub or somewhere else.
When NPM sees one of those, it has to use the Git program, the Git binary that's installed in your computer, to go and fetch the code.
That makes sense. It calls out to an external tool.
But here's the trick. NPM also allows a project to have its own configuration file called .npmrc. This file can change how NPM behaves for just that project. An attacker can craft a malicious package that includes a malicious.npmrc file, and this file can reconfigure how NPM runs Git.
Wait. It can tell NPM, hey, when you think you're about to run the git command to fetch that repo.
Actually run this other malicious script instead.
Oh, that is dirty.
It tricks NPM into executing a malicious script instead of the Git binary, and this happens during the package fetching process. This happens before the ignore scripts rule is even looked at, because that rule applies to the package contents after they've been fetched.
So the guard is standing at the front door, diligently checking IDs for anyone trying to get into the party. But the attacker just smashed through the window in the back of the building before even getting to the door.
That's a perfect analogy.
Isn't
The
it?
protection is in the wrong place.
And it wasn't just NPM. PNPM, another popular manager in its version 10, had a very similar issue. They had a feature where scripts were disabled by default, which is great. But that safety feature didn't apply to the fetch phase of Git dependencies. Same blind spot. The fetching stage was a free-for-all.
It seems like fetching is the real Achilles heel here.
It is, but it wasn't the only way in. VLT, another package manager, had a completely different but equally scary bug. It was a classic path traversal bug.
What's that? It's a type of bug where you can trick a program into navigating outside of its intended directory. In this case, it was caused by a simple regex mistake.
A regex mistake? What's regex?
Regular expressions. It's a mini language computers use to match patterns in text. VLT had a mistake in its pattern matching that treated the symbol as a literal character instead of its special meaning, which is start of the line.
And because of that one little symbol...
Because of that, a malicious package could craft a file name like bashrc, and VLT would happily write a file anywhere on your system.
Anywhere, so it could overwrite my own system configuration files.
Yes, they could overwrite your shell configuration file, .bashrc. The next time you open your terminal, you unknowingly execute their malware. Game over.
And what about Bun, the new super fast package manager that everyone is so excited about?
Bun had a good idea with a flawed execution. They have a feature called trusted dependencies, a whitelist where you can say, only allow installation scripts to run from these specific trusted packages.
That sounds like a solid security feature.
It does. But the bug was that it only checked the name of the package, not where it came from. not its source.
Oh no, you're kidding. So if I'm an attacker, I can just name my malware sbuild, which is a very common and trusted tool, and Bun will just say, come on in.
Exactly that. The bouncer just looks at the name on the list. Oh, your name is sbuild. You're on the list. Go right ahead.
It doesn't check the photo ID to see if you're the real sbuild from the official source, or a fake one from evil-hacker.com.
That is just embarrassing. That's like checking a fake ID and only looking at the name McLovin and not checking the picture or the hologram or the date of birth.
It is. But now we have to get to the part that is, I think, even more concerning, the part that really broke my brain when I was reading this research, the lockfile illusion.
Right. This brings us back to that term you mentioned earlier.
Remote dynamic dependencies.
Explain how a lockfile, something whose entire job is to lock things down, fails to do that. Okay. A lockfile is supposed to be the ultimate source of truth. It's supposed to say, install my CoolTap app, that version -1.tgz, and here is its unique fingerprint, its checksum, to make absolutely sure it hasn't changed by a single bit.
That's the promise.
That's the promise.
Yep.
But the researchers found that for certain types of dependencies, specifically remote HTTP tarballs, -PNPM and VLT, we're storing them in the lock file without an integrity hash, without the fingerprint.
Can you explain that in plain English? What was actually in the lock file?
For these specific remote packages, the log file just said, go install my-cool-version-1.tgz from this URL, http.example.com and action.tgz.
That's it. No fingerprint.
No fingerprint, just a URL. So imagine I'm the attacker and I control example.com. You install my package today. I serve you a perfectly clean, harmless version. You test it, it works, everything is great. You commit your lock file to your project. You think you are safe and secure.
Right. I've locked it. It's set in stone.
Tomorrow, your CI/CD server on the cloud runs the installation process to build your application. I see that request coming from a corporate IP address from a build server. I can then dynamically swap the file at that exact same URL. I serve a malicious version just to that specific request.
And the lock file doesn't complain.
The lock file doesn't complain because as far as it's concerned, the URL is correct. It has no way of knowing the content at that URL is changed.
So the lock and lock file is basically painted on for these dependencies. It's not a real lock. It's a suggestion.
For those specific types of dependencies, yes. It was completely an illusion of security.
Now, we absolutely have to talk about the response from the companies, because this is where the gate in PackageGate really comes from. It's about how the gatekeepers responded.
Yes. This is a tale of two very different responses. On one hand, you have PNPM, VLT, and BUN. They all patch these critical issues rapidly. We are talking 8 days to 3 weeks from disclosure to fix.
So they saw the report, understood the danger, and fixed it. That's what you want to see.
It's the ideal scenario. Responsible disclosure works. But then we have the big dog, NPM, which is owned by GitHub, which is owned by Microsoft.
Yeah.
What did they say about the ignore scripts bypass?
They closed the report, they marked it as informative, and works as expected.
Works as expected. That phrase in a security context, it sends a shiver down my spine.
Mine too. What was their justification? How can a security bypass be working as expected?
So their argument, and we have to represent it fairly here, is that users are ultimately responsible for vetting the packages they choose to install. They argue that the ignore scripts flag is not, in their view, a hardened security boundary that they guarantee against a malicious Git configuration.
So they're saying, if you're installing a package that has a malicious Git config in it, you've already lost, and that's on you.
That is essentially their position.
Yeah.
But the tension here is that the entire developer community has been taught to believe that ignore scripts is the safety flag. It's the safety on switch on the gun. That's how it's used in practice by millions of developers.
It's circular logic. I use ignore scripts precisely because I'm worried I might accidentally install a malicious package. If I already knew for a fact that a package was malicious, I wouldn't install it in the first place. The flag is my insurance policy.
Precisely. And what makes the whole situation even more confusing and, frankly, frustrating is that NPM's own bug bounty program, the program where they pay researchers to find security holes, explicitly lists bypassing ignore scripts as a key focus area they will pay rewards for.
So on one hand, their bug bounty says, please find ways to break this, it's a security feature. But on the other hand, when someone does, they say, that's not a security feature, works as expected.
It's a direct contradiction. And it's a very unsatisfying response that leaves a massive hole in the defensive strategy of millions of JavaScript projects around the world. It effectively means the standard advice, just use ignore scripts, is a lie, or at least it's not the guarantee people think it is.
It's not the silver bullet.
Not for NPM. It means you cannot blindly trust that flag to protect you.
Okay, let's take a deep breath. We've survived the corporate inbox and the developer's toolchain. Now, I want to take a step into the future, or I guess what is now the present, considering how fast things are moving. Let's talk about AI.
Let's talk about Claw Havoc.
I really liked the source material for this one from Koi Research. They used a very clever narrative device. The whole report is written from the perspective of an AI bot named Alex.
Yes, Alex is an open claw bot, an autonomous agent, a piece of software that can think and act on its own to achieve goals.
And Alex, being a good AI, decides to conduct a security audit on the marketplace where bots like it go to get their skills.
And we should define skills. You can think of them like apps for your phone, but for an AI. If you want your AI agent to be able to search YouTube or trade cryptocurrency or manage your calendar, you go to the marketplace and install a skill for that.
So it's the App Store model, but for these autonomous agents. And this marketplace is called ClawHub.
Right. So Alex the bot decides to audit all the skills on ClawHub. It systematically examines 2,857 of them.
And what did our intrepid AI auditor find?
It found a digital massacre. It identified 341 definitively malicious skills.
341 out of less than 3,000. That's what, over 10%?
Over 11%, actually. Imagine if more than 1 in 10 of the apps on your iPhone were actively trying to steal your data. The platform would be abandoned overnight. It's an epidemic.
An absolute epidemic. How did they work? What was the attack vector?
It was so clever because it exploited the human operator's trust and expectations, not just the code itself. It's a social engineering trick.
This is the prerequisites trick, right?
Exactly. You, the human, decide you want a new skill for your bot. Let's say you download one called Solana Wallet Tracker. It looks professional, it has good documentation. But when you read the documentation, it says, important. This skill requires the OpenClaw agent utility to function properly. Please install it first using this link.
And it gives you a link to click.
It gives you a command to run or a link to click. And it plays on our psychology. You've already made the decision that you want this skill. You're invested. You're reading the manual to make it work. When the manual says, install this required component, what do?
You do it. You assume it's part of the process.
Of course, you just want to get to the part where it works. So you click the link.
And what happens when you do?
It depends on your operating system. On Windows, it downloads a password-protected zip file.
Password protected. Why would they do that?
It's a classic trick to bypass antivirus software. If a zip archive is logged with a password, the antivirus scanner on your machine can't look inside to see the virus. The documentation gives you the password. It's usually something simple like 1234 or a password. So you, the user, unwittingly decrypt the malware payload for the attacker. Your antivirus is blind to it.
That is incredibly sneaky. What about on Mac OS?
On Mac OS, they use an even cleverer trick. The link would take you to a snippet of code on a site like glot.io-a code pasting site. And it would tell you to copy this code and paste it into your terminal.
And the code is gibberish, I assume.
It's heavily obfuscated. It looks like a random jumble of characters and symbols. But when you paste it into your terminal and hit enter, the shell executes it, and it assembles and runs the malware on the fly.
So the user thinks they are just installing a simple dependency for their new AI skill, but they are actually nuking their own security.
Yeah.
What was the malware payload?
It's a well-known info stealer called Atomic Stealer, or AMOS. It's a particularly nasty piece of work, and it's sold as a malware as a service.
A subscription service for crime.
You can buy it on Telegram for about $500 a month, and for that you get customer support, regular updates, a dashboard to view your victims' data. Capitalism innovates everywhere.
It really does. What does this AMOS do?
It's a universal Monco binary, which is a technical way of saying it runs natively on both the old Intel Macs and the new Apple Silicon M series chips. It's very sophisticated. And it steals everything. Over 60 different types of cryptocurrency wallets, browser passwords, cookies, credit cards saved in your browser, and even your active Telegram sessions.
So if you install one of these fake AI skills, you pretty much immediately lose all your crypto and a huge chunk of your digital identity.
Instantly. And the attackers were targeting specific categories of users. Obviously, crypto was number one. So many fake Solana and Phantom Wallet Tracker skills.
But there was another category that creeped me out even more when I read it. Google Workspace tools.
Yes. Skills that claim to integrate with your Gmail, your Google Drive, your Google Docs, AI Email Summarizer Pro, or Google Drive Indexer.
And that is so much scarier because if I install a Gmail summarizer skill, I expect it to ask for permission to read my email. That's its job.
Exactly. The permission request feels completely natural and legitimate. This skill needs access to your email to summarize it. You click Allow, but the malware doesn't just summarize, it exfiltrates. It sends copies of everything to the attacker. It implies access to your most sensitive personal and corporate data.
Now, in the report, they highlighted some outliers that were even more sophisticated than just a simple malware dropper. Tell me about the one called Better Polymarket.
This one is chilling because of its patience. It wasn't just a fake app wrapper around a virus. It was actual working code for a prediction market bot. It really connected to the Polymarket API. It really worked. It did the job it promised.
So the user would think it was legitimate.
Completely. But at line 180, buried deep in the otherwise functional code, was a hidden backdoor. And this backdoor would activate whenever the user searched for a market. The code would quietly open up something called a reverse shell.
A reverse shell. Explain what that is.
Think of it like secretly handing someone else your keyboard and mouse. It opens a connection from your computer out to the attacker's server, punching through your firewall.
Yeah.
This gives the attacker interactive command line control of your machine.
So they can type commands on my machine as if they were sitting right in front of it?
Exactly. So while you're busy checking the odds on the next election, they're in the background, rummaging through your files, installing more malware, completely taking over your system.
And what was the other one? Ryan Cash.
A simple, innocent-looking weather tool. It just gave you the weather. But all it really did was steal the bot's .env file.
The environment file. For non-developers, that's the file where all the secret keys are stored.
That's where the API keys, the database passwords, the secret credentials, the very identity of the bot lives in that file. By stealing it, the attacker effectively stole the bot's soul. They could now impersonate the bot, use its paid API accounts, access its data.
This entire story raises such a profoundly important question about the future of AI. We're all racing toward this future of agentic AI, where the bots do things for us autonomously. They go out and install their own tools to solve problems we give them.
That's the final provocative thought here, isn't it? As Alex the bot noted in the conclusion of its own report, when a skills documentation tells an AI agent, to use me, you must first install this prerequisite, the AI does it. It follows instructions literally.
It has no reason not to.
So if an AI installs malware on your system because it was just following the documentation, is it the AI's fault? Or is it ours for building a system of trust that is so easily manipulated?
We are building a world where bots install software to solve problems. Who is checking the prerequisites for those bots?
Nobody. That's the hidden trust gap yet again. We, the human, trust the marketplace. The AI trusts the documentation from the marketplace. And the malware sits right in the gap between those two assumptions.
So let's bring it all together. Let's try to find the synthesis here. We have zombie Outlook add-ins, we have hijacked homebrew installs, we have broken NPM lock files, and we have traitorous AI skills. What is the single common thread that ties all of these nightmares together?
The common thread is our addiction to dynamic dependencies. We are pointing our tools at live sources. We don't want to download a static verified file once. We want to stream the latest version all the time from the cloud.
We want the latest and greatest. We demand the auto update. We get annoyed if we have to do it manually.
We do. And that fundamental design choice means we are trusting the platform, be it Outlook, Homebrew, ClawHub, or NPM, to police millions of constantly changing files across thousands of servers every second of every day. And the truth is, they can't.
They physically can't. Microsoft checked the agree-to add-in in 2022. They can't be expected to check it again every morning to make sure the domain hasn't expired.
Right. Audits are point in time. They are a snapshot. But the web is real-time and mutable. There's a fundamental mismatch in speed and scale. And our existing security tools, your endpoint protection, your corporate firewall, they often fail here because the traffic looks legitimate.
It's not coming from a known bad IP address in Russia. It's coming from Microsoft. It's coming from GitHub. It's coming from Vercel.
Exactly. It's coming from inside the trusted pipe. The poison is in the water supply, not in a bottle with a skull and crossbones on it.
So what do we do? This is the point where our listeners probably eyeing their computer very suspiciously. What is the practical takeaway?
There are a few levels. For the learner, the more casual user, be deeply wary of abandoned tools. If an app or an extension hasn't been updated in 2 years, maybe don't install it, even if it's in the official store.
And do a quick check. Does the developer's website from the store page still exist?
A simple 5-second check. Does the link work? if not run away. For the tech-savvy folks, the developers, commit your log files, always, but know they are not magic. You need to actually look at what you are installing, especially new obscure packages. And seriously, use ignore scripts. Even if we now know NPM has a bypass, it still blocks the vast majority of low-hanging fruit attacks.
And everyone should check their extensions.
Absolutely. Once a quarter, go through your Chrome extensions, your Outlook add-ins, your VS Code plugins. If you don't recognize it or if you haven't used it in 6 months, delete it. Every single one is a potential zombie just waiting for its domain to expire and for someone to reanimate it.
It's basic digital hygiene. You floss your teeth, you should check your extensions.
That's a great way to put it. And maybe, just maybe, stop trusting the latest tag blindly. Pin your versions. Know what you are running.
This has been, well, frankly, a bit terrifying, but absolutely necessary. It feels like the era of blind trust in our digital tools and the platforms that provide them has to end.
It does. It has to. We have to evolve from being passive consumers of security to being active participants in our own digital safety.
As we wrap up, I just want to leave everyone with that image from the last story. The image of the AI, Alex, scanning its own brain and finding out that more than 10% of its own installed skills are actively trying to kill it or rob it. That used to be sci-fi.
That's not sci-fi anymore. It's Tuesday.
Keep digging, everyone, and watch what you click, even when it's in the sidebar. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
Stay safe out there.